Okay. Well, today we're gathered and there are over 60 cities around the country who at this very moment are doing similar events to stand up for our residents, to stand up for our neighbors who are immigrants. And this is part of how we are responding to broken policies in Washington, D.C., by cities all over the country banding together in common cause on behalf of our people. In New York City, the ultimate city of immigrants, thousands and thousands of people who contribute every day to the life of our city. In fact, 500,000 New Yorkers who happen to be undocumented, another 500,000 New Yorkers who happen to be permanent residents, who are all part of the lifeblood of this city. We support them, we stand by them. They are doing today what previous immigrants did over many generations, making our city great. But it's not just here in New York City. Again, over 60 cities working simultaneously to send a message to Washington, to send a message to the members of the House and Senate, to send a message to the President, to also show that if enough localities act in common, that starts to change the way our country thinks and the way our country acts. So we're proud to be part of this city's day of action on immigration. And our focus today is on protecting all of the families who make up this city and protecting our children in particular, who we know are precious, who we respect in every way. And our school system has a particular responsibility not only to educate our children, but to protect our children. And that's true in light of what's going on in this country especially. So we think it's crucial to fight for all New Yorkers, to fight for immigrant New Yorkers, and to help immigrant New Yorkers know their rights. And that's what this day is all about. I want everyone to know, and I particularly want to direct this message to immigrant parents and immigrant children. I want you to know this is your city. Your city will stand by you. Your city will protect you. Your city will help you to know your rights and to make sure your rights are respected. This to us is crucial and important work on behalf of the people of this city. Now, our public schools, for so many New Yorkers, this is the most important thing their city government does for them, is educate their children. And we know there have been such deep fears and concerns in recent weeks. Parents not knowing how to handle this new situation, not knowing what it'll mean for their family members, not knowing what it'll mean for their children. So it's our job to help parents get the information they need to make sure they get the guidance and support through their schools, to make sure that everyone understands their rights, even against a backdrop of such fear. We're going to talk about how we are helping to prepare and educate parents and children. But before we go any farther, I want to thank all those who have joined with us. You're going to hear from a few of them in a moment, but I particularly also want to acknowledge our Corporation Counsel, Zach Carter, and I want to thank also the chair of the Immigration Committee in the City Council, Councilmember Carlos Menchaca, and thank Assemblymember Helen Rosenthal. I'm sorry, Councilmember. There's another Assemblymember Rosenthal. Councilmember Helen Rosenthal, thank you very much. Also, we are doing a lot of outreach work at the community level to educate parents, and we have crucial allies in that work. And one of them is the organization Make the Road New York, that has been leading a number of the workshops in our schools and have been tremendous partners in this effort. I want to thank Deborah Axe, the co-executive director of Make the Road New York, for all she is doing and all her colleagues are doing to prepare and educate our parents and community members. Now, let me give you a couple of other updates. We are instructing all school employees to understand what to do in any situation in which ICE agents appear at a school. We think it's crucial that all school personnel understand exactly how to respond to situations like this. And we're going to make sure that parents know how school personnel will handle it, so parents will know their rights are being protected. If ICE agents come to a school, they will be kept outside the building while the school staff assess the situation, get NYPD assistance, and consult with appropriate city legal authorities. Schools will not share information with ICE agents unless required by the law. So this is a very clear point I want to make up front. Again, parents are in such a fearful point at this point. They're so concerned about ICE agents appearing out of nowhere and disrupting their lives and their families and potentially tearing their families apart. Our message is that our schools are a place of safety, and our school safety agents will in fact apply these rules and ensure that no ICE agents come into our school building unless they are authorized by senior security officials and have appropriate documentation. The Department of Education does not, as you know, does not track the immigration status of our students. We are explicit about this point. So one of the important things we do to keep the bond between our schools and all the parents and family members of our city is we do not ask documentation status. It parallels the policy NYPD has had for decades of not asking documentation status, so that we don't put parents and other family members in position of feeling like their lives could be compromised. The city will be very clear with parents about the standards we will hold for our school buildings, and further, we will facilitate through a number of means, workshops and other opportunities for parents to get all their questions answered about their rights in general at this moment, and how they can get help if they feel their situation is threatened. Know Your Rights workshops for students, for parents, and for faculty will be held all over the city. There's already over 100 workshops citywide that have been planned in every borough, and those will continue to be planned. There'll be more according to wherever the need is. We'll be partnering with legal experts to provide information on immigration rights and legal resources. And these workshops will be open to any parents who want to learn their rights. We'll continue to publicize them, and we'll make sure they continue as long as needed. And those will be for New Yorkers of any status. Again, we're not going to ask anyone their status. We're going to make the information available. All will be welcome to come and get that information at their school. We want to make sure that all parents are providing the school with up-to-date contact information for family members. Remember, right now, people are living in fear that their family could be torn apart. We want to make sure our schools know how to reach family members in the event of any kind of emergency. And we want our children to know that they're going to be protected no matter what happens. Now, I want to remind everyone, in addition to these workshops, right now, any New Yorker who needs legal assistance related to the potential of deportation can get free and trusted immigration legal services by calling 311 and asking for immigration help. So that's something we make available now, and we're going to emphasize that in the workshops in the schools. Look, the urgency we all feel is because the policies emanating from Washington violate our values. They violate our sense of who we are as New Yorkers. We've never experienced anything like this, certainly not in decades. We are a city of immigrants, and we feel that our fundamental reality, our essence, is now under attack. And we are going to stand up for immigrant New Yorkers. And the fact that there's now over 60 cities joining together on this day is a sign of things to come, of the kind of response, the kind of pushback that's happening all over this country. Cities from Los Angeles to Iowa City to Birmingham, Alabama are all participating today, and this movement will be quickly growing. And it's important that we recognize that all of the opposition that's been generated will have an impact. We're seeing the opposition that's been generated by the travel ban. We're seeing the opposition that's been generated by the effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act. All of this is building, and it's all connecting. And we think it's going to help to stop some of the worst elements of these new policies. So for this city, we know who we are, we know what we believe in. We're going to join together with other cities who feel the same way. And together we're going to stop these policies from hurting our people. A few words in Spanish. Quiero que los estudiantes y sus familias sepan que haremos todo lo posible para mantener a las fuerzas de inmigración fuera de nuestras escuelas. Las escuelas no van a compartir información con los agentes de inmigración a menos que lo exija la ley. Invito a las personas con preguntas a conocer sus derechos en los talleres que estamos organizando en cada condado. With that, I want to bring forward a partner in this work who has been standing up for the rights of immigrants her entire career and has been a leading force in making sure that New York City will have the back of all immigrant New Yorkers. Speaker of the City Council, Melissa Mark-Viverito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and also been joined by Council members Vanessa Gibson and Idanis Rodriguez, and also, as you mentioned, Rosenthal and Carlos Menchaca. This is really an important announcement, and obviously I want to thank the mayor, I want to thank the advocates, I want to thank our chancellor, all those that had anything to do. We're obviously living under a political climate where fear, uncertainty, and hate is plaguing our communities. Every day we wake up to news of families, law-abiding families, that are being ripped apart and separated from their loved ones. Actually, from here, I'm going to a rally at 26 Federal Plaza of a 32 BJ member's husband. She, being a US citizen, married to an undocumented individual, had a check-in today, was picked up, we have a 12-month-old son, and is being detained. This is happening too often. And contrary to what they want you to believe, immigrants are the economic engine of our city, of our country, the backbone of our neighborhoods, and what makes this nation unique. So this is why the City Council, working with this administration, is doing everything in its power to protect and defend our city's immigrants, and why I'm proud to have worked with the Mayor and Chancellor Fariña on today's new guidance for principals on how to address immigration and other law enforcement that would want to enter our schools. The guidance is vital for students and their families as it takes the guesswork out of interactions with ICE and other law enforcement in our schools. Importantly, it states clearly and unambiguously, ICE can't come in without a warrant signed by a judge, period. Policies like this not only reflect the city's values of fairness and justice, but they also underscore the importance we place on ensuring that our schools remain safe spaces for our children. But it's not just about our classrooms. We want everyone in this city to be able to live with the dignity they deserve. And that's why today's announcement builds on the Council's unwavering commitment to defending New Yorkers from harsh ICE enforcement tactics. Just a couple of months ago, during my State of the City address, I announced a number of steps the Council will take on this regard. From passing legislation to block ICE from private areas on city property, to defending the right to free public education for all children by restricting ICE's access to schools, students, and student records, the Council will continue to fight for what is right. And we will also continue to increase social and legal services and raise awareness through events like Know Your Rights workshops that the mayor announced, where families can now also create plans for their families. We really need to get the word out that people have to prepare for these unfortunate reality that we're living in right now. So preparing plans of what to do in case someone is detained are critically important. Access to Action New York's NYC and increased Department of Education legal and social emotional support resources, obviously all things that we are committed to. So we're going to continue to have these events where community members can obtain free legal screening and legal support regarding immigration matters and social, educational, and financial workshops and clinics. And as we've said, we will use litigation as a line of defense when the president attempts to set policy that violates the Constitution. We do this because it's who we are, a city that defends the core principles of freedom and justice, a city that finds strength in its diversity, and that thrives when we are united, not separated. This is, been very upset for the past, since this election cycle, but in particular when we're seeing what is happening and how it's playing out in the lives of those that are very close to us, which are our constituents and people we care about. I'll say a few words in Spanish. Las aulas deberían ser recintos seguros para aprender. Es así de simple. Y por eso los directivos que estamos anunciando hoy son vitales para los estudiantes y sus familias, porque afirman claramente que ICE no puede entrar en nuestras escuelas sin una orden firmada por un juez. Punto. Este tipo de política no solo refleja nuestro compromiso a proteger la justicia en esta ciudad, sino que también afirman la importancia que le damos a asegurar que nuestras escuelas sean lugares seguros para nuestros niños. So again, thank you all that made this happen. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for your partnership. Thank you, Chancellor. We look forward to making sure that we spread this out far and wide through our council members and any way that we can spread the word. We'll work hand in hand with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I want you to hear from a young woman who epitomizes everything we're talking about, because she came here from another country, now is not only a public school parent, but is an activist in her community, working to make her community better and to support other parents. She is a member of Make the Road New York, and she has been focused on helping her fellow immigrants to know their rights. She's going to speak in Spanish. She'll be translated by Deborah. So both come forward. I'd like to introduce to you Rocio Salazar.
Buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon. By the way, they put my name. It's okay. My name is Rocio Espadas.
Oh, they did get your name wrong.
Yes, they did. It's fine.
Well, tell them how you spell your name then.
Rocio, R-O-C-I-O, and E-S-P-A-D-A-S. That's my last name. Soy un miembro de Hace Camino en Nueva York y quiero darle las gracias al alcalde, al canciller, here, y a la presidenta del consejo por haberme invitado esta tarde. Yo tengo el orgullo de ser madre de 4 hijos, los cuales están asistiendo en escuelas públicas.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rocio Espada. They got my name wrong. I am a member of Make the Road New York. I want to thank the mayor, the chancellor, and the president of the city council for having invited me here this afternoon. I am proud to be the mother of 4 children, all of whom are attending the public schools here in New York.
Los pasos que el Departamento de Educación está tomando en el día de hoy son importantes para mi comunidad. Nuestros hijos y como yo como padre, sé que tienen que sentir orgullosos cuando están asistiendo en la escuela y no temer que ellos van a ser separados de sus padres.
The steps that the Department of Education in our city are taking today are so important for me and my community. Our children and I, as a parent, we have to feel safe when we attend the school and we visit our school, and not fear that our children are going to be separated from our parents.
Yo vivo en Bushwick, una comunidad llena de inmigrantes latinos, y mis hijos estudian en la escuela de un alto porcentaje de inmigrantes. Aunque mis hijos son ciudadanos, no quiero que mis hijos tengan que ser testigos de sus amigos que han sido separados de sus padres y de sus familias.
I live in Bushwick, a community of immigrants and Latinos, and my children study at a school that has a very high percentage of immigrant students. Although my kids are lucky to be citizens, I don't want them to have to be witness to their friends being torn away from their families.
Estoy muy contenta que la ciudad ha creado un proceso claro y específico de cómo cada escuela tiene que actuar si es que la inmigración llega ahí. Estos pasos nos dan la garantía de la ciudad no va a dar consentimiento a los agentes de ICE. Ahora nuestros niños se pueden enfocar al 100% en lo que deberían enfocarse, en la educación.
I'm very happy that our city has created a process that is clear and specific of how each school has to act if the situation happens where ICE shows up at the school. These steps will give us a guarantee that the city will not give consent for ICE agents to enter the school. Now our children can focus 100% on what they should be doing, learning.
Muchísimas gracias al alcalde, al canciller y a la presidenta del consejo por haberme invitado esta tarde.
Thank you so much to the mayor, the chancellor, and the speaker of the city council very
Sí
much.
se puede.
Sí se puede.
The last part needs no translation. Thank you, Rocio. Thank you so much. I want to note, I mentioned over 60 cities in this country are participating right now in actions like this. And I just want to let you know some of the states where these are happening, so you don't have the impression that it's just blue states where these events are happening. There's events happening today in Alabama, in Arizona, Arkansas, Iowa, Idaho, Indiana, North Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, all over the country, in every kind of state. Mayors are standing up and saying we're going to respect and defend our immigrant neighbors. And I particularly want to note that this is a bipartisan effort. The mayor of Anaheim, California, Tom Tate, the mayor of Mesa, Arizona, John Giles, both Republicans, are participating today because they know how important it is to respect all of the members of their community and to make sure that people have the information they need in this very difficult time. Now I want to turn to our Chancellor. She has shown over these last months tremendous concern and sensitivity for the children in New York City. I can't tell you how many parents have said to me how important it was that they heard the Chancellor's voice as one of solidarity with immigrant children and parents. And that was so important when people were living with so much fear to know that the schools were a place that they could feel safe. So I want to thank the Chancellor for that and introduce our Chancellor, Carmen Fariña.
Well, good afternoon. I'm coming here with two major focuses. First and foremost, I am a child of immigrants, and I remember the conversations at my table. And I also remember that although they weren't in fear here, they both came from a country where there was a lot of fear, which is why they came here. And I think we have to be very clear that immigrants add a lot to our society. They also enhance our mosaic. And it's really, really important that we look at the humanity aspect of this, not just the legal aspect. But secondly, I'm also a historian. I love history, and I've read a lot on the beginning of public education. And public education was founded really mainly to have a democratic society and actually bring immigrants to the table so they could share from each other. The first public schools in New York City were comprised mainly of German and Irish immigrants in the same classroom at the same time, so together they would have a holistic view of what education was all about. And I want to say to the parents today in New York City, the best place to send your children on a day-to-day basis is your school. We need to have kids in school every single day because this is the place of learning. You came to this country for a better life for your children, and being in school is what's going to give you that path. So for the parents who are worried, we're here in some ways to have your back, but more importantly, your children need to know that in every single school in New York City, you are welcomed, you are respected, and you're an asset to our education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. Now the head of our mayor's office for immigrant affairs has been leading the way in making sure that that information and truth was reaching people who needed it. Our Commissioner, Nisha Agarwal. Where are you, our Commissioner, Nisha Agarwal? There you are. Move that for you.
Sure, thank you.
Got it?
Thank you so much to the mayor, the speaker, and the chancellor. I, too, am the daughter of immigrants and care about this issue deeply. And in New York City, where nearly 40% of the population are immigrants, when you add their children, that's 60% of the city. And every day, as the Commissioner of Immigrant Affairs, I talk to immigrant families. And this is a moment of great uncertainty for immigrants. That's why it is vital that the city deliver clear information to students, parents, and the broader community. We want young New Yorkers engaged and safe in their learning environments. And that is the reason why, in addition to the guidance that was announced, the city will be launching Know Your Rights workshops to ensure every New Yorker is educated and connected to the help they need. With the help of our partners, we will be offering over 100 workshops covering every borough. I want to thank the DOE, in particular community schools and international high schools, as well as Fordham Law and the Catholic Charities Community Services for helping to deliver these workshops. And all of these partners, as well as other trusted legal partners, will be ensuring that New Yorkers get the information they need in this uncertain time. These initiatives are led by our Action NYC Legal Services Program, and in the last year alone, the Mayor's Office has presented at nearly 2,000 community events, including Know Your Rights forums in all 5 boroughs. This work will now continue in collaboration with our schools. And we will continue to build on this work until we reach all of the New Yorkers in every corner of the city who need this information. Our message to our immigrant brothers and sisters is we see you, we are with you, and we stand with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, crucial part of this equation is our school safety officers. And they are being instructed this week in how to handle these new protocols to make sure that if any ICE agents appear at the school, that they will know exactly how to handle the situation, how to get more senior officers involved, how to get legal guidance, et cetera. This plan has been developed in close collaboration with the NYPD. And I want to now invite forward the commanding officer of the School Safety Division, Assistant Chief Brian Conroy.
Good afternoon. And I'm Assistant Chief Brian Conroy, the commanding officer of the NYPD School Safety Division. And we're here today to just continue our very close relationship that we have with the Department of Education and principals and parents and all the school staff in keeping our schools a safe environment. So this is sort of a natural continuation for us. According to our new protocols, our school safety agents, if an ICE agent unlikely shows up at a school, they were required, as all visitors do, to produce identification and any documents they have with them. The school safety agent, who is present in every single New York City public school, will request a principal to come down and meet with the ICE or other federal agents or officers and support them in their efforts to review the legal documentation. The school safety agent will notify supervisors, both a uniform supervisor from the precinct and a school safety supervisor respond. And if they need any additional information, they will also reach out to our legal bureau to review any sort of documents that are presented to them. So again, working very close, not unusual to what we normally do, but working very closely with the school administration in ensuring that city policies are adhered to. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Finally, I want you to hear from the Borough President of Manhattan. I know she is regularly got her finger on the pulse, and she's hearing the deep concern from parents in the borough she represents. Borough President Gail Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to say how timely and important this is nationally and in New York. Thanks to the City Council, I just testified at an immigration hearing. Councilmember Menchaca and the Speaker were there. And one of the questions was, what about the schools? What about the courts? There are so many different places where people are concerned. So this press conference today puts to an end the issue of what about the schools. It's a very clear message, and obviously the schools are perhaps the most important place to make this message so clear. So that hearing was very instructive, dramatic, challenging to those of us who care about our country and our city. And so it's very important, and we thank you very much for having this press conference today on the schools in particular, and I'm sure that backpack information will include the same message that you're giving out today. So on behalf of only Manhattanites, I can't speak on everyone, all of our schools and parents, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take questions on the new policy at the DOE and on the Mayor's Day of Action nationally, et cetera.
So 2 questions. The first is there was a demand, and I know this is happening in other cities, where if an ICE agent shows up at the school, all requests have to go through the Chancellor's office rather than individual principals. I wanted to know if this protocol had any guidance around that. And secondly, if someone could tell me, obviously there are laws that would permit ICE agents to enter a school. I know they're rare, but what those instances would be if it's a public safety.
Let me have
fund.
Zach Carter come up,
Great.
and I will lead in. So we were discussing this before this gathering. There may be a profound and urgent threat to public safety in which federal agents could be granted immediate access. But that would not be the case if we're talking about an immigration enforcement action, except for the most exceptional situations. So yes, and Zach will give you the more sophisticated legal interpretation, but while there may be an occasional situation, overwhelmingly, these rules would apply, and anybody from a federal agency would be treated the same way as anyone else trying to get access to a school. They would be stopped at the front desk, and then they would have to meet a standard based on the documentation they had. So as to how the city law department and the DOE legal office work on assessing that paperwork, Zach can speak to that.
Sure. So if an ICE agent shows up at a school with a judicially issued warrant, that may give them a legal right of access, but even then, our protocols require that and every citizen has this right, to provide them with the warrant so that they can be reviewed, so that they can reach out to their general counsel, and if necessary, their general counsel can reach out to the law department for advice as to whether or not it is a facially valid warrant, and also to help guide the principal of the school and the school safety agent as to the areas that the warrant authorizes in terms of a search.
And let me just, for everyone's benefit, if city legal authorities determine that the warrant is not valid, then what would be the instruction?
Then the instruction would be to direct the ICE agent to contact the appropriate legal officer, which would either be the general counsel, and in most cases, the general counsel under those circumstances, particularly where there's a warrant that's been issued, would contact my office, and we would have a communication directly with ICE.
Yes.
Okay. If the ICE pick them up from outside, when they come out from the school, outside from the school, then what would be the role of the principal? Because principal is the custodian of the student. So how you will help them if someone picked up by ICE outside from the school?
Look, we're talking here about situations where the city of New York controls the building like a public school building. We've already been really clear about the fact that if an ICE agent is out on the streets of the city and they pursue someone, we may not even know that's happening. But on the property we control, this is the standard we're holding, that we need to see an appropriate warrant, and our legal staff needs to validate that that is an appropriate warrant before anything else can proceed. And look, we want to be very clear to parents that we're not allowing ICE agents in the building, because I think parents are so afraid right now that they're worried that an agent could literally come into a building and single out their child. We want them to know that can't happen under this policy.
Thank you. Two questions. How many incidents of ICE going into the schools have occurred so far, both with warrants and without?
And I think that is, I'm looking to Chancellor, none so far. None so far, no.
This is just a prophylactic?
Absolutely.
Second, the Chancellor spoke about the importance of going to school and so forth, and of sending your children to school. I'm wondering, is she speaking to any kind of uptick in people not sending their children to school? Is that a response to anything?
We have actually been monitoring our attendance, and we do not see that. Where we see more of a reaction is for parent meetings. In any places where there's going to be a group of parents in particular neighborhoods, there are less parents attending those meetings. So we assume that's the fear factor, but not in our schools, although we monitor it every single day by district and by individual schools.
Dave.
Mayor, my question also was similar to, have we seen any of these kinds of raids on public schools? But what would an ICE agent be looking for? And just to clarify, is today a completely new policy that takes effect today, or is it just reiterating what has always been the case?
This is, I would say it's a deepening of the policy, because now we are making very clear to all the school safety agents that there's a specific process to validate any warrant, and that they should not proceed to let someone in unless legal staff has signed off and senior law enforcement officials get involved with the principal. So this is a different situation. What we said previously, normally you can't just waltz into a school building. You have to sign in and have a reason to be there. But this adds another layer of defense so that it's quite clear if an agent shows up, the default position is they're not coming in the building. Legal staff from the DOE and/or the law department have to get involved. The principal has to get involved. Senior police officials have to get involved before any decision is made on how to proceed.
What would they be looking for? What do they want to know? I mean, would they round up the kids and take the kids?
Look, Dave, I know it sounds outlandish, but we're seeing things that we have not seen before, and there's a tremendous amount of fear out there. And so we want to reassure parents that there's a strong protocol in place, that when ICE agents come to the building, they will be in contact with uniformed officers who will lay down the ground rules. The City of New York controls our school buildings, and the law must be followed. And unless our lawyers say a warrant is appropriate, we're not letting anyone proceed. So I think it's important for parents to know that. I think it's important that all of our officers, of course, will be trained on that same standard because we're dealing with a new reality. It is not because we've seen it happen yet, but we're only a few weeks into this, and we have to be ready for anything.
You said that...
Hold on a second, let me get some of the folks to come back.
Mayor, is there a policy in place? I mean, I know you're saying this hasn't actually happened yet, but how do you intend to prevent the entry of these people into the building? And I guess what I'm asking is, do they recognize your authority to prohibit them from entering the building? And should they say, I don't care what you say, I'm going in, how do you then handle it?
Let me have Zach and Chief Conroy come up. I'm going to offer a layman's interpretation. Look, if our uniform officers, and particularly if we get more senior officers involved quickly, are telling a federal agent that they are not allowed in the building, this is our building, we control the building. Again, but for the most extraordinary emergency dynamics, constitutionally, again, the Constitution devolves a huge amount of power down to the local level. We control our own buildings, so they can't just blow by our security. They have to follow our rules, and we're laying out a very clear protocol. But why don't you speak to the situation of what if someone attempted to ignore those instructions?
First of all, I've spent the better part of my career in law enforcement, and I think there's a tendency, and I think the chief can support me on this, for law enforcement agencies to respect each other. So I don't expect that there will be any unpleasant confrontations once our school security officers, who are going to receive and will continue to receive training on how to handle these situations, once that officer politely tells an ICE officer that these are the rules of the road that I am obliged to enforce, I think we'll have these issues will be resolved without any incident or confrontation.
If you want to add.
And just that we also work very well with other law enforcement agencies, and we have not experienced anything any near to that in any case in the past. And immigration's own policies make schools a sensitive place to go to, and there's no indication at any time that they're going to be coming to schools. But if they do, we have our protocols in place to deal with that situation.
Go ahead.
Of course, these folks are entitled to remain outside, public property on the sidewalk. Is there any protocol in terms of assisting the students or whatever person might be the target in terms of how the staff would attempt to provide assistance to that person, or how that would work?
Nisha, why don't you speak to this as well? Go ahead. If there was a situation involving a student, how we would support the family, et cetera.
That's exactly the purpose of the Know Your Rights forums that we announced, is to ensure that New Yorkers, whether parents or students or others, have a sense of what to do if they're encountering ICE in a public situation, how to prepare, and generally kind of what their rights are to access city services and city property. So that's one of the ways in which we want to empower New Yorkers to know what to do in those situations.
And talk about the legal assistance.
And in addition, we've made huge investments in the last few years in terms of immigration legal assistance, from legal screenings to actually providing legal support for immigrants. So that's why, if there are legal questions that New Yorkers have, you can call 311 and ask for immigration help and be connected to a lawyer, free, quality lawyers who can advise you on your situation.
Mayor, can I add to
Yeah,
this?
please, Chancellor.
I think there are two very important messages here today. First and foremost, as much as we try to be uniform in our system, we generally aren't. So this means that every school safety officer in the city, in 1,600 plus schools, will have the same message. No one's going to make an individual decision. This is a decision that's being made universally, and people will be held accountable to that decision. The second piece is that we have asked all principals in the city of New York to review their emergency information cards. So it's up to parents also to make sure they give us reliable contact information should, in the most unfortunate of circumstances, a child go home and not find a parent there, that there are other numbers that we can call. Because that is in reality probably more likely than anyone going into a school. So we are prepared for a lot of eventualities, but the most important thing is how do we get the information out there to the community to make them understand that, once again, the safest place for their children is in our classrooms, in our schools.
Yeah, I just want to speak one more point to that God forbid a child goes home and their parent has been taken away. So that's why the schools are going to make an extra effort to make sure they know exactly how to reach other family members and loved ones of each student. And we're also going to instruct parents to tell their children, in the event something like this were to happen, that if it's during daytime hours, a school is a safe place to be where the child can be supported, even if the parents have been detained, or other hours to go to their local police precinct where they will be protected. So I just want you to understand that there are these conversations happening around kitchen tables all over New York City right now where parents are saying to their children, if I'm not here when you come home, this is what you need to do. That's how much fear there is out there. We have to help parents to know what they should do and help students to know that they're going to be protected in any situation.
Mr. Mayor, this question is for...
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Yes, you can. Please do. Hold on, we're going to get a Spanish translation.
Es muy importante que todos los padres inmigrantes de la ciudad de Nueva York se den cuenta que nosotros estamos aquí para proteger a vosotros y más a sus hijos. Sí, ahora estamos anunciando que es muy importante que todas las escuelas sepan que no vamos a dejar entrar en sus puertas ninguna persona del gobierno federal. Damos direcciones ahora que si viene alguien del gobierno federal que tiene que esperar fuera de las escuelas, tiene que enseñar sus papeles y tiene que llamar a alguien de nuestra comisión para permiso de lo que se puede hacer. Pero los padres tienen que saber que los estudiantes que están en las escuelas están protegidos y la mejor cosa que hacer con sus hijos es mandarlos a la escuela. Y el otro consejo que estoy dando, que todos los padres den en sus escuelas el nombre, dirección y teléfono de por lo mínimo 3 personas que pueden ayudar en caso que por alguna razón algo pase y los estudiantes tengan que llamar a otra persona.
Guy calling the back. There you go.
Well, I just wanted the Chancellor to say a few words in Spanish.
Did she just do what you wanted? Okay.
If ICE comes in with a valid warrant and you guys grant them access, will the school hinder their access to the person?
Zach and Chief, come on up. So, okay, if the whole process has been gone through to validate the warrant, senior police and education officials involved, and the warrant is deemed appropriate, talk about the next steps.
Sure. If the warrant is deemed appropriate, the execution of that warrant by ICE agents will be permitted, but the execution will be monitored by the school safety agent and other designated personnel to make sure that the only places that ICE agents are permitted are the places that are specifically authorized by the warrant.
Right. So for example, we do not.
No, they will not be hindered.
Yeah, they won't be hindered, but we're also want to be clear what Zach said, and Chief, feel free to add. The goal is we're not going to have ICE agents wandering the hallways of a school. If there is a situation where the warrant is deemed appropriate, there will be a very specific protocol determined on site as to how that plays out to minimize disruption in the school and minimize fear. And that could well be, having that occur off-site so it doesn't create disruption. Do you want to add anything? Good. Okay. Who is not going? Go ahead.
Rachel Sisto, the chief. Is there a timeline, two-part, is there a timeline for this guidance being pushed out to schools first?
Right now, this week.
And I noticed that safety agents are going to be trained in the next week-ish. Is there going to be further training for teachers and administrators on how to handle this, or is...
Okay. So, Chief, correct me. So this training begins this week. The policy will be out this week, training immediately, and it'll be ongoing training. Now, your question is about administrators and other school teachers, administrators. Carmen, you want to speak to that timeline for training them on this protocol?
We have already started talking to administrators citywide. The only other element is now not in the building, and I'm very confident that we have some really committed administrators who are really looking forward just for us to put the guidelines in writing.
And then they will be training their teachers.
Correct.
Hold on, let me get someone who has not gone. Is there anyone who has not gone yet? Okay, go ahead.
If they need emergency help by the law department, say about if anything happened in the midnight, how they can reach to get the help.
You mean if a parent needs emergency help? So that would be, Nisha will repeat how you go about getting that help?
Sure. So to get legal help for parents, call 311 and ask for immigration help, and you'll be directed to be able to make an appointment to see a lawyer.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, before you said we're seeing things we've never seen before. But really, there's always been these laws to deport illegal immigrants. People have always been deported. We're not seeing sweeps throughout the city. There's been like a handful of extra people arrested. So what specifically are you talking about?
The combination, the travel ban, which we've never seen something like that before, where people were detained without any charge in the original travel ban. We have never seen an executive order that I know of threatening Homeland Security funding. We haven't seen an individual who the federal government attempted to deport in while they were in the middle of medical treatment in this country. There's a whole host of things I certainly have never seen before, and I think when you add them together have created an atmosphere of particular fear and a sense that anything could happen, which is why we need these precautions in place. All right, let me see if there's any other questions, please.
Hi, I understand ICE put New York City on a list of cities that didn't cooperate with requests to turn over immigrants who were in city jails in February. I wonder if you could respond to that, and is that something that would concern to you then?
We are very clear about our city law, which has been in place for 3 years. There are a number of situations where we cooperate, where serious and violent crimes are involved, and there's been a conviction. There's other situations where we don't cooperate, and again, constitutionally, we believe we're on very strong ground because power devolves down to the local level on matters like this. So we think if it gets back again to the executive order on immigration, we think that that executive order is deeply problematic and contradictory on its face. But the City of New York had a full legislative process. That law has not been challenged. It has been operating, and we're very clear about the situations in which we do cooperate with ICE, and we're very clear about the public safety standards we hold for our city. Okay, last call. Want to see if there's anything else? Yes, Aaron?
So this is specific to schools. Are there any guidelines as far as any other type of city property?
Let me turn to Nisha and Zach. The question is, are we developing similar guidelines for other city properties?
Yes, we have, and we have already given guidance to the General Counsel and the agency commissioners of all of our city agencies that roughly in broad outline are pretty much the same, and that is that it gives direction as to who should be called in the event that they receive a visit from an ICE agent at one of our offices or other city facilities, and gives them specific direction as to how they should proceed in terms of contacting the law department, contacting the general counsel, and what they should communicate to ICE agents by way of what they require in terms of a warrant or other documentation identifying themselves and all the things that are contained in the school protocol.
Okay, I want to see last call. Any more questions on this? Going once, twice. Thank you, everyone.